After deep diving the cryptids of Kentucky, I have been nothing short of shocked, horrified, and cracked up. Join me as we deep dive the several notable cryptids of this densely haunted state. Roll intro. A large figure with 100 years old, the half bear, half gorilla, horns protruding, who would name a creek Pope Lick. Wolfman's horrendous blood-curdling screams. Terrifying. It makes no sense. It's giving weird vibes. When I asked my girlfriend what cryptid I should make a video about next, she accidentally misspoke and said the Kentucky Devil. She meant to say the Jersey Devil, but at that point I had already Googled Kentucky cryptids and was in way too deep, so we're just gonna have to do the Jersey Devil another time. Now, the first cryptid in Kentucky that I want to go over today is known as the Pope Lick Monster. And some of the information I have on the Pope Lick Monster is from this book, The United States of Cryptids. Hello, do you have time to talk about our Lord and Savior, Mothman? But according to this book and the research that I've done online, the Pope Lick Monster is a goat man that haunts a train bridge. Now, if there's anything that gets my neurodivergent self excited, it's trains. So let's go. I'm gonna throw a picture up on the screen, but basically there's this trestle bridge, which is a type of train bridge, and it's 772 feet long, and in the middle part, the highest point, the bridge is 90 feet tall. And the goat man is said to haunt the bridge. I'm gonna set this book down while I keep talking, but there will be a link to buy it if you're interested in this book. It's actually really cool. So this haunted train trestle bridge, known as the Pope Lick Train Trestle Bridge, was built in the late 1800s, making this train bridge over 130 years old. And since the legends of the Pope Lick Monster started, at least 7 people have died at the bridge. Apparently, both the cryptid and the bridge are named after the Pope Lick Creek, which runs under the Pope Lick Trestle, which is haunted by the Pope Lick Monster. And I just want to know who would name a creek Pope Lick. It's giving weird vibes. They should have named the creek Pepsi Lick. The Pepsi jokes, they're just never gonna stop. But the legend goes that the goat man lives under the trestle train bridge and mimics the voices of children or puts people under delusions to come out to the middle of the bridge, where a train will then come right when they get to the middle of the bridge, and their only options are to get hit by the train or to jump from the bridge. A description of the goat I found says it has powerful fur-covered goat legs, an alabaster skinned face with an aquiline nose, wide-set eyes, and short, sharp horns protruding from its forehead, nestled in long, greasy hair that matches the color of its furry legs. This half-man, half-goat is a walking demon. So this goat man's pretty wild. While I was researching, I found 3 different origin stories that kind of circle around that are the alleged origins of the goat man. The first origin story is he's a circus freak. Some say that the monster was once a circus performer who was mistreated by his owners and escaped after a train derailed off the trestle. He then took refuge under the bridge and vowed revenge on anyone who crossed his path. The second origin story was that it was a goat farmer, and this goat farmer allegedly made a deal with Satan and sacrificed his goats in exchange for supernatural powers. But those powers twisted him into a hybrid of half man, half goat, and he's haunted the region ever since. And which, if he's a demon, maybe they should call up the actual Pope and he can come lick the goat man, and then maybe that would exorcise him. I don't know if that's how exorcism work, but it's worth a shot. But the third origin story is a Native American curse. Some say that the monster is a manifestation of a curse placed by Native American tribes on the land where the bridge was built. The curse was meant to punish anyone who disturbed their sacred grounds. And I guess that this trestle bridge was built on some sort of sacred Native American site but I didn't get too deep into the research on that and I couldn't find much. But like I said earlier in the video, since the legend started in the 1960s, there have been at least 7 deaths, all tied back to the Popelic monster, and we're gonna go over kind of a list of a couple of them. The first recorded one that I could find was in 1987. A 17-year-old boy named Jack Charles Bam II was killed by a train while crossing the bridge with his friends. He was reportedly looking for the monster after he had heard about it on TV. So at this point, the legend was already getting so stirred up about this monster that the news was talking about it and teenagers were going out looking for it to try to find proof of it. The next documented death that I could find was in 1988, where a 19-year-old girl named Jacqueline Catherine Hayes was killed by a train while crossing the bridge with her boyfriend. They were working on filming a video about the legend for a school project, and I'm not quite sure how the boyfriend survived. I don't know if he just wasn't on the trestle or if he somehow got to safety and she didn't quite get to safety. I couldn't find too many more details about that, but from what I understand, the boyfriend did survive. The next recorded death I could find was in 1994, which is actually the year I was born, where a man was killed by the train after his ATV overturned while trying to drive across the trestle, trapping him underneath his own ATV, where a train then came and ran both of them over, throwing them off the bridge. Next, in the year 2000, a 19-year-old man fell to his death after encountering a train and deciding to jump off the trestle to try to survive that way. The next one happened on April 23rd of 2016, which I'm going to read about from this book because it has some really good details, better than I could find online. 2 Ohio tourists, 26-year-old Roquel Bain and her boyfriend, 41-year-old David Nee, were on the way to Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky, a famous destination for ghost hunting. But they decided to stop at the train trestle beforehand. And while they were in the middle of the trestle, a train comes and Roquel unfortunately gets hit by the train and dies. And her boyfriend actually kind of jumped off the side and held on to the side of the trestle and managed to hold on for the entire duration of the train passing by to survive. It said that it's extremely hard to hold on to the trestle to avoid trains to survive because of how badly it shakes, because of how old it is, and the intense vibrations from such large freight trains. They also last for a long time, you know. Some of these trains take 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes to cross the tracks, but he barely managed to hold on for dear life and did survive. And the final deaths happened in 2019. On May 26, 2019, Savannah Bright, a 15-year-old, was pronounced dead at the scene after her and another girl, Kaylee Keeling, were on the tracks looking for the Popelic monster. Well, they were both hit by the train. Savannah dies, but Kayla survives after going to the hospital in critical condition, but managed to make a recovery. And while I couldn't find any other information, there was also a note in one of the articles I read saying another man as well died on the bridge in 2019, but I couldn't find any info on that. It just said also a man dead in 2019. Outside of these deaths, there was a couple notable sightings that made it into local news throughout the years. A couple of those that I could find documented were in 1976, a group of teenagers claimed to have seen a hairy bipedal creature with horns running along the tracks near the bridge and on the bridge, which note that this account predates all the deaths I listed and I think was part of how the legend got going so strongly. In 1981, a couple who was driving on the road that runs next to the Popelic River under the bridge said that they heard extremely strange noises coming from up atop the bridge at night, and their account of how horrifying what they heard also made it into the news. And then in 1994, a man claimed to have seen a large figure with glowing eyes standing on top of the bridge. While he was fishing nearby, the creature was bipedal, but didn't look quite like a man, and its freaky glowing yellow eyes scared him. I think what's so tragic about the Goat Man or the Popelic monster is that what started out more than likely as kind of this harmless, scary story rumor of this freaky goat man that haunts the bridge that's nearby, that's super old and super rickety. You know, at this point, it's well over 100 years old. When the accounts first started, it wasn't that old, but it was pushing 100 from the get-go. Because of how fun the lore and the legend was around this monster, it started to lead to actual deaths, which kind of became this self-fulfilling prophecy. The more people who it kind of became this self-fulfilling prophecy. The more people who allegedly died to the monster, the more people wanted to go to the Trestle Bridge to look for the monster, and the more people that go and look for the monster on the bridge, the more people die. And it's kind of become this really bad cycle. Local authorities have put up giant fences, giant warning signs, anything they can do to just kind of deter people from going onto the actual trestle bridge, because it is still used by trains to this day despite being over 130 years old. I don't know what kind of maintenance they're doing to that bridge. Even if there weren't trains running on it, I'd kind of be... My camera just died. Anyways, I would be weary about going on it whether trains were running on it or not, seeing as it's 130 years old. But even the fact that it's 130 years old and trains still run on it, people still are constantly trying to go up onto the Trestle Bridge, and unfortunately, people are still dying every decade from the trains on the bridge, whether they get hit by the train directly or have to jump off the bridge to try to avoid the trains.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next cryptid entering the ring is Bearilla.
Okay, really dumb jokes aside. The next cryptid we're gonna talk about is Bearilla. You hear that right, it's a mix between bear and gorilla, but maybe it's not actually a mix between bear and gorilla. This is a really weird one because I found extraordinarily conflicting accounts. Some things say that this is half bear, half gorilla, and is a bear-gorilla hybrid and just roams the wilderness of Kentucky. Other things say that this is actually more like a werewolf. It's like half bear, half wolf, and many people call it the Kentucky werewolf. And then there's some people who say both of these things are real, but they're two separate things. There is the Kentucky werewolf and there is the half bear, half gorilla. Other people say, no, this is the same cryptid and they're one and the same. And the confusion on the name apparently comes from the first sighting account. We're back in 1972 in Nicholas County. A 76-year-old man was driving to his barn to check on his tobacco plants early one morning. Apparently, I don't know, something like that. Or it's like tobacco store. I don't know. Like his store of tobacco, not like a store where you sell place, like where he's storing the tobacco. Anyways, and in his words, he saw Bearilla cross in front of him on a rural county road. But despite calling it Bearilla, he said a dog-like head standing 6 to 7 feet in height, covered in long, matted white hair, walking with a pronounced shoulder stoop on two legs. Despite having the face of a dog, the man said it's half bear, half gorilla, and calls it Bearilla in his first account. It makes no sense. This should be an account of a wolf bear or bear wolf. What? I don't get where gorilla comes in. I don't know if he was just thinking of like silverback gorillas, or maybe it was like the type of hair, but he's like, no, it's clearly a bear with a dog's face. So this cryptid was so frustrating, and I was trying to find more details, and the more I looked, the more confusing and frustrating it got, and I was just like, what is going on? I don't know. But the thing I've learned about Kentucky and looking into all these cryptid is there's just lots of bipedal bear slash Wolfman slash Bigfoot type creatures. Bigfoot is also extraordinarily popular in Kentucky. Apparently there's even a Bigfoot museum in the town of Red River Gorge because Bigfoot is so popular in Kentucky. But then there's also this other thing which might also be Bearilla, which they call the Gateway Werewolf, which is probably also the Bearilla and also probably the Kentucky Werewolf. They're probably all the same creature, but also not the same creature according to other people. But what gets even crazier, where this just gets even more messier, in another part of Kentucky separate, then you have this other account of the Beast of the Land Between the Lakes, which that is named after, I don't know if it's a state park or a federal park, but the Land Between the Lakes is a park that you can go to in between two like river type lake things. I'll throw a photo up so you can see what I'm talking about. But the beast there is said to resemble a gigantic half man, half wolf that walks on two legs, has 5-fingered human hands ending in vicious claws, has really long, ragged hair with massive jaw, glowing eyes. And the account of this thing also says that it has an insane howl, like a wolf, only louder than a wolf could ever possibly be. In Italian, it's more like a blood-curdling laughter and a scream combined, which these descriptions can just be so dramatic. But the main account of this beast of the land between the lakes comes from a couple dudes who were having a camp out with their Volkswagen bus in the land between the lakes. They start hearing all these noises. They start feeling like something's watching them. They start to catch glimpses of glowing eyes running past in the woods in the dark. They get freaked out. They get into their van. They feel like the monster's watching them, so they're terrified, and they decide that they're just gonna leave, start to drive off in their bus, and then they say this half man, half wolf starts chasing them. It's as fast as the car, that they can see it coming after them from the lights of the taillights of their van, which is, if this account is true, this would be terrifying. And they say that they had to slow down to take a sharp turn, and when they do, they feel the whole vehicle jolt and like it can't move. The guy in the driver's seat panics, pedal to the floor, it breaks free. They get away from whatever the monster is. They don't see it after this point, but when they finally get to the point where they feel safe enough to stop and look, that there's giant gash marks in the back of their Volkswagen bus. So if this is true, it was a giant monster that was strong enough to tear through the metal coverings of the engine bay of a Volkswagen bus, which terrifying. And there is one other account that happens in the 1980s where a family that was in a motorhome were camping on the land between the lakes, where they found 3 bodies, the parents and a daughter, and they were all shredded up. There was bloody clothes everywhere. All 3 of them were dead, and there was large gash marks everywhere all over their bodies, and nobody knows exactly how they died. The one thing about that story is it is very heavily disputed because the Parks Association that runs the land between the lakes has said that nobody's ever died there, where locals maintain that no, these 3 people died there and it was covered up to protect tourism in Kentucky. And there's also a very similar beast account that it's just like the beast of the land between the lakes that's known as the Beast of Bullitt Country. But you can see what I'm getting at here. All these accounts, the beast of the land between the lakes, the Beast of Bullitt Country, all the sightings of Bigfoot, the Bearilla, which isn't a gorilla, it's actually half bear, half wolf. All these things kind of sound like the exact same monster, and there's 4 different accounts from 4 different areas in this place, and it's like, okay, what is going on? Clearly there was some sort of monster from the 1940s to the late 1980s that was just wreaking havoc all over Kentucky and allegedly looked like a half bear, half wolf. I'm gonna move on from all these Wolfman accounts because I don't want to get too in the weeds. And I'm gonna save Bigfoot for another day when I make an all-encompassing Bigfoot video. I'm not gonna do that till I hit 10K subs. So I'm setting a lofty goal. So if you want to see me talk about Bigfoot, 10K subs. I'm not doing it until I hit that because that's going to be like a disgusting amount of work. So y'all got to earn it. But yeah, I don't want to get too in the weeds with all these Wolfman sightings because there's so many and they're all kind of like really vague and there's not a lot of evidence and the accounts are kind of hard to find and kind of mumble jumbled. But there's so many of them all throughout Kentucky that you got to wonder, like, there was something. I don't know if it was just a really weird looking bear or what was going on in Kentucky, but something was clearly terrorizing people throughout the forests of Kentucky. Now, I'd like to note before I get into the final primary cryptid we're going to talk about today, there will also be a couple honorable mentions at the end. Another really notable thing that happened in Kentucky was the Hopkinsville Goblins, which is a very famous UFO case that there's been movies about and such. I'm going to cover that in another video. I'm just sticking to the cryptids today. We'll save the weird alien goblins for later. So the final primary cryptid, before we get to the honorable mentions, it's the Wampus Cat. Let's go, what a cool name. Now, the Wampus Cat does have sightings in multiple states, and the Wampus Cat is popular in several states. However, I found out about it researching it in Kentucky, So therefore, I'm going to talk about it in this video because I want to, and it's interesting, and I like the Wampus Cat, okay? Leave me alone. The Wampus Cat has varied lore and legends and origin stories and even descriptions of what it looks like. It's kind of become a catch-all term of these really weird extraterrestrial magical cats. They're very large though, all of them. And the primary thing is it's said to be a large cat-like creature with glowing eyes and the ability to shapeshift into a woman. Pretty much all the Wampus cats are large cats that can shapeshift into women. The reasons why they can shapeshift into women and the way the cat looks kind of varies depending on the region of the tail it comes from. The one in Kentucky is also known for having horrendous blood-curdling screams. So that's really cool. But let's talk about some of these weird origin stories from the Wampus Cat. One is Cherokee folklore, and it tells the legend of Running Deer, a Cherokee woman who wanted to take down the evil spirit Owa, I think is how you say this, known as the spirit of madness. Running Deer wanted revenge on this spirit because she believed it was responsible for driving her husband, Standing Bear, to madness. She equipped herself with a booger mask, which I think that's how you're supposed to say this, and I don't know what those are. Hold on, let me look it up. Cherokee booger mask. I'm gonna throw some pictures of what these masks look like up on screen. They're actually kind of cool. Some of them are really weird, really funny vibes, creepy vibes, some of them really sad vibes. They got a lot of vibes, I'm gonna say that much. Anyway, equipped with the mask and the spirit of a mountain cat, she surprised and defeated the spirit, becoming the tribe's spirit talker and home protector. And some people to this day believe that her spirit resides inside the Wampus Cat, guarding Cherokee lands against dark forces and evil. Another Cherokee legend of the creature was that there was a woman who spied on a sacred ceremony by hiding underneath the pelt of a mountain lion, and when they found out, a medicine man punished the woman by transforming her into the Wampus Cat, using her with the mountain lion pelt she was hiding inside of. There's another account of how the Wampus Cat came about, where apparently a witch would transform herself into a cat to commit crimes, and halfway through her transformation she got interrupted and got permanently stuck between women and cat, and just still continues to commit crimes stuck in this state for all of eternity. So that one's kind of weird. An interesting thing about the Wampus Cat is some of the different descriptions of what the Wampus Cat was like. And we're gonna turn to our handy dandy book, thank you girlfriend for getting this for me, to get some descriptions about the different types of Wampus Cats. Apparently Wampus Cats are also called alien big cats, ABCs, because Wampus Cat has kind of become a catch-all term for all these really weird cats, like I said earlier. But different descriptions of the Wampus Cat, some people say it's yellow, some people say it's burgundy, some people say it has a spiked tail, and some people even say that it has 6 legs and not 4. In many of these accounts, it can walk on just 2 legs or all 4 legs depending on what kind of mood it's in. But Wampus sightings have been happening since the 1900s, or maybe even earlier than that. Some people attribute these sightings, especially way back then, to the now extinct North American panther. There is a lot of evidence that there was a panther in North America that roamed around. There's still panthers down in South America. Some people think that occasionally South American panthers still somehow make it up into the middle of North America. There's other people think that it's somehow the extinct North American lion. Now, from what we understand, the North American lion has been extinct from around 10 to 11,000 years ago. That's when the alleged Younger Dryas impact happened and decimated a lot of the large mammals and fauna throughout North America. This would be around the same time that like giant sloths died and the woolly mammoth died and many other really large creatures up in North America, as well as the horse. Because apparently there were horses in North America and then they all died, only for the horse to get brought back over here a while later. But anyway, some people say that it's somehow the North American lion and there's just a few of them left and they're all hiding out down in the southern part of the country and somehow still terrorize people. And other people take it at face value. They're like, no, this is a mystical cat that can transform into a woman and has 6 legs and it is very real. And there's even one account about the Wampus Cat that says that it is a half cat, half dog, dog hybrid. Cat dog! And there's yet other accounts which say that the Wampus Cat is an amphibious cat, which is more or less a ginormous half cat, half mink that loves to swim in the water. Some even say that it can live underwater, and that's why it's hard to find because it's hiding underwater and then it comes out. But there are tons of news articles referencing sightings of the Wampus Cat from 1918 and then in the 1930s and then in the 1950s and so on and so forth. But if we're being real about what it probably was, at least back then, more than likely it was just a couple remaining North American panthers. Yeah, seeing a panther in North America, that'd be terrifying. We're not used to that kind of a predator up here. So I get why it would strike fear into literally everyone and to be like, oh my gosh, it's this mythical creature, when in reality it's just a big cat. But one of the funny things about the Wampus Cat is it has become the mascot of a ton of schools all over America. Just to highlight a couple, you have Clark Fork Junior and Senior High School in Idaho. You have Conway Junior High and High School in Conway, Arkansas. You have Atoka High School in Atoka, Oklahoma. You have Itasca High School in Itasca, Texas. You have Leesville High School in Leesville, Louisiana. And there's even an independent collegiate basketball team, the Owari Wampus Cats. And they're based out in North Carolina. This alleged murderous cat lady cryptid has also just become like a silly school mascot all over the place. And I just kind of love that. This thing that is been alleged to murder people and be this weird spirit or be this weird entity that's killed countless livestock and humans has just kind of been reduced to a school mascot at this point because there haven't been any super relevant sightings since the early 1900s. And before I close up on the Wampus Cat, I just wanted to read you this one specific account. Back in 1918, around Thanksgiving, there was a whole bunch of sightings of a Wampus Cat. So on actual Thanksgiving morning, 75 men armed with guns and bows and arrows go out searching for the Wampus Cat because somebody had put out a $100 bounty if somebody killed it by the end of Thanksgiving. And in the paper at the time, they were describing it as the devil in the shape of a tiger. And this was in Tennessee. This wasn't even in Kentucky. 75 men go out into this town where everyone's saying the Wampus Cat's here, it's everywhere. They don't find anything. They look the entire day. 75 men. They find absolutely nothing. And then the town just kind of was like, well, that was funny. And they just move on. And I think that's about all I have to say on the Wampus Cat, but kind of dig the Wampus Cat. He's pretty cool. But before we close out, I've got a couple really fast honorable mentions. First of all, there's the alleged Sheepsquatch in Kentucky, which is half man, half sheep, but apparently is kind of friendly. The other notable things about this is, well, it's half man, half sheep. It also has raccoon hands and a possum tail. And that description is just sending me. So I think that one's really funny. I couldn't find that much information about this, but this is a pretty modern thing. There was an alleged sighting in 2004, but I don't really believe that. And the other honorable mention I wanted to throw in is the Harrington Lake monster, which was literally allegedly an eel pig. It's like a half eel, half pig. It's like 12 feet, 15 feet long, apparently. A lot of people like to call him Harry because he's from the Harrington Lake, so he's known as the Harrington Lake monster. And it's basically an eel with the face of a pig, and the end of the eel's tail kind of curls like a pigtail does, and it lives inside Kentucky's deepest and largest man-made lake. And apparently the authoritative sighting was by a man, Lauren S. Thompson, who was a professor at the University of Kentucky. He lived on a lake house on the lake and said that, yeah, he saw Harry all the time and that the pig eel monster was real. There used to be a whole bunch of them, but when this man-made lake was made by building a dam, it killed off everyone but that last one, and then there really haven't been any modern sightings. But I just think mashing an eel and a pig together is pretty absurd, but it's kind of funny and it sounds kind of cutesy. It doesn't really sound scary, but then again, if you think like wild boar and eel, I don't know, maybe it could be in the absolutely terrifying category and not the cutesy category. But when you just hear Harry the eel pig, I don't know, it just sounds like all cutesy and fun. So I'm gonna stick with the narrative that it's cutesy and fun. fun and not absolutely terrifying like it would be probably in actuality. But I'm gonna wrap up the video there because this was getting long and rambly and all over the place. So thank you for writing it out with me. Thank you so much for watching. Always remember to like and subscribe. As always, all of my sources will be linked in the description. There'll be a link to purchase this book if you're interested in the description. I'm not sponsored. I just think it's a cool book, and if you want to pick it up, you can pick it up. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I'm sending all the love, and I will see you in the next one where we talk about goblins. Bye. Beep 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 beep. Damn. Blah.